Amanda, I just opened up your file and I want to talk about simplifying some things and what I think you can do moving forward. Now, the videos that are in the learning modules and all of that are very important, and they do tell you the proper way and kind of the industry standard way for rigging. Now, that being said, there are slightly more simplified ways of doing things, and we can kind of change there we go. Change some of the mesh or the rig around so that it's a little bit more simplified for you, so that you're getting the base idea of actually setting up the rig. We will be using Human IK when it comes down to animating, so the week 1 assignment becomes really important to follow the steps that were exactly given. But for this, I want you to understand the idea of joints and IK handles. So, all of that being said, we want to make sure that your skeleton fits inside of your model, but for right now we can hide that. It looks like you do have most of the locators set up appropriately. I know I kind of looked through all of this before I started the recording, but it does get confusing really quickly. So I would save this file, do a save as, and then do a file save as and give it a brand new name so that you have this to look at and work from, but we can start a little bit more simply. Okay? Now it's up to you. If you want, we can kind of start from scratch, or we can do kind of just go through here and clean things up. I'm actually going to delete this because I do have your file saved, so all of that I am going to delete. If you middle mouse click and drag, you can take something out of the group. So I'm going to delete the group and what's in here. Okay. So I'm going to delete this. This is your left arm. All right. If you do want to get into rigging, please let me know, because we will want to go into more detail and depth. Also, this is just an intro course, so always feel free to do more with rigging. We can talk about things, you can watch videos, whatever you would like. Alright, so for the most part, we've got everything that we need. We just have to make sure they're all connected. Alright, so hips is where we want to start. And again, if you find it easier to kind of start from scratch, we can do that too. Up to you. So maybe I'll actually show you this. Alright, so we can use our front and side views, because we want to make sure that we're actually straight on. And I can go to rigging, skeleton, create joint, clicking, I did the waist, the hip, the knee, the ankle, the ball, and the toe. Okay, so you see something like that. I'm going to hide this. I'm going to look in my side view. Now we want to give it some bend. So you can bring hip forward. What's going on here? Apparently my toe joint was very high up in space. Sorry about that. So, and of course naming waist, left hip, left knee, however you want to label them, it's perfectly fine. So maybe I want to rotate this forward, and then don't forget you want to make sure you're showing bend. Oops, I'll just do this. All right. So all I'm looking for is wherever you see an obvious bend, that we have that. So I didn't finish. Left ball, left toe. So this would be left toe. All right, so waist, hip, knee, ankle. I have an extra joint in here. Ball and toe. So joint 4, and remove joint. There we go. Okay, so that is all you need for a leg. Same for the arm. You know, we can start here, do shoulder, elbow, wrist, and then I do need you to create all of the fingers like you did before. So for that case, you may want to kind of keep what you have. When it comes to mirroring, you can always go to mirror joints, mirror function across. I do search for L, replace with R. Now you have to be careful. If something had an L in it, it will do this, but mirror and then you're set. We don't need 2 waist joints. We just need our hip. So what I'm going to do is middle mouse, click and drag, and bring it into my original and delete that. So now I've got a waist set up here. Okay. You can do 1, 2, 3. You can do 4 on the spine, but we can keep it very basic. Okay. You don't need to go crazy. So skeleton, create joint. Maybe I'll do a 4th one to get up to the collarbone. And then I can go over to the shoulder, elbow, wrist. And then you'll have to do all of the fingers, but for the sake of this, I'll just do 1. That'll be majority of the fingers. So we've got something like that. Oops. So spine 1. I would do spine 2. Spine 3. Spine 4. And then we've got our waist, which is the main parent, and it selects everything. So that's how you know we've got our hierarchy all set, because if I select the middle, it's going all the way. So then we've got left shoulder. You know, if you wanted to write the actual word left and then change it to right. Left elbow. Left wrist. And left hand. Alright, then I can click this, skeleton, mirror joints. Now you can see it says right shoulder, but it did change the R in shoulder. So just be careful. Alright, and then we want to just finish this off with her head. So we can click and click to create the head joint. You can add more. With this course, you know, we're teaching kind of the extreme, not extreme, but we want the most in-depth kind of a rig. And then I'm showing you here kind of a simplified version, so it's up to you where in the middle you want to be. So then I will grab that, layers, create layer from selected, and I'll call this my skeleton. Alright, so now we have to make sure that our skeleton fits in all views. So obviously it's not bending with her arms, or it's not, you know, looks okay in the front, but not from the side. So that's when we take our shoulder joint. We can back that up, rotate it forward. You know, maybe you find that you want to bring down the shoulder and rotate it over. Bring up the wrist, bring up the hand. Now, when I brought this down, you can see it's also down in space, so we're going to have to do a little bit of fixing. But easy enough. You can do the same to the other side. Make sure that you have bend to it though, because the bend in this elbow is what Maya is going to look at and try to figure out when it comes to your IK handles where you're rotating from. So sometimes I try to exaggerate it a little bit more. Alright, so we've got something like that. Again, take your time with it. Not everything's centered on mine, not everything's lined up perfectly. Obviously I didn't do this arm yet, but I'm just trying to get you all caught up. Alright, so IKs. You're going to do an IK handle from the hip to the ankle. You do not want to do the tip of the toes, you want to do the ankle because you're basically going to grab the ankle to bend the legs. If you think about when you're walking, you pick up your foot and you kind of fall and your foot carries you. For this course, you could do an IK handle from the shoulder to the wrist, and that's really all that I'm looking for. So, skeleton, create IK handle, I'll do the shoulder and the wrist. So, left arm, IK. And then you can see we can click on the IK to actually move our arm. So if you wanted to straighten out the arm, you can pull it out, bend it down, etc. Gets a nice rotation. Sometimes riggers only use IKs in the legs and the spine, and the arms are just rotated. This is because more of our action kind of happens from our shoulder when it comes to the arms, but for the sake of the assignment, we want to see that you know what's going on. Okay, so you can put the IKs in their own layer once you have them done. Layers, create layer from selected, and oops, not that one. And you can call this IKs. Mainly is just inverse kinematics. If it's forward kinematics, you would rotate, you know, from the hip to get the leg to move instead of moving from the ankle to get the leg to move. So then it'll become time to do with controllers. I have a video in the announcements on how to do the controllers on the feet. Mainly, you're going to be going to create NURBS. I use a lot of circles. You can use snaps to kind of position it into whatever joint you want. And then you're going to select, you know, what joint you want to move with it, the NURBS curves, and we have parent constraints. So for example, if you wanted to do one for a higher up spine joint, we can move this up here. Oops, that's moving my pivot point, not my snaps. You can make it smaller so that it's just around her waist. I would call it waist controller. And then we can go to constrain parent. Oops. Let's make sure. Nope. So you want to select the controller first, and then the joint, then constrain and parent. Then you can click on it. Sorry, I clicked the skeleton first. Do the NURBS curve first. So then once I grab that controller, you can see that my spine moves with it. As you start building more of these, you'll need to parent them. So for example, if I do a oh, I don't want a square. If I do a NURB circle and I want it to be for the whole body, I can do the NURB circle, hold shift and grab my waist joint, which is my whole body, constrain and parent. But you can see when I move this, it kind of breaks my rig because this stays behind. So what you want to do is find your waist controller, middle mouse click and drag into the body controller. That way, if I grab the body controller, it's grabbing the whole thing, but I can always still grab that waist and do whatever I want with it. Okay? You will need to make sure that your joints are set up appropriately so that when you move things, they look more natural. But I wanted to let you know kind of what I'm looking for, and hopefully this will help you. So take a look and then let me know if you have any questions.